So first, I'd just like to welcome Isaac, who's going to do Welcome to Country for us, and from then we'll have some music and then get back to the regular schedule. Isaac, thank you.
Nā mauni. Nai nari Isaac kutnua janam. Nai tangi wulta gana narinjari mil. Marto changa gana miarna. Nai wankanti mari na putni. Nadla kuyata ana. Mari nadlo tampanthi. Nadlo. Ghana Yartanga Tikinthi, Nachalia. Hi, my name's Isaac. I'm a proud Ghana and Narinjari man. I'd just like to thank you all today for inviting me to such a special and important event to do the Welcome to Country. It means a lot to me and to be a part of today as well. Just as part of that welcome, I'd just like to acknowledge any elders. I'd like to acknowledge my elders, the ones who've really encouraged me, supported me and taught me, especially when it comes to doing cultural work and things like this. I'd also like to acknowledge the ancestors, my ancestors, your ancestors. I'd like to invite them to be with us here today, to be a part of today. I'm just going to play some didgeridoo. A lot of people know it as the didgeridoo. The traditional name for it is yiraki. It comes from Yolngu country, so I'm going to play some for you today. We use it for blessing ceremonies, welcome ceremonies, so I thought it would be very fitting for today in regards to just, putting out a good vibe. No, Chalia, thank you.
Thank you, Isaac. That was wonderful. So, good morning and welcome. As I said, I'm Dr. Stuart Moody. I'm the State Medical Director for Donate Life. and I'd like to welcome you to the 2020 rose planting ceremony. I'll be taking you through this morning's ceremony. 2020 has been a difficult year, but for most of the families here, 2019 was even harder. Losing a loved one is tragic, but being able to help unknown others in desperate need through organ and corneal donation at the most difficult times represents the best of our community. And I thank you all for that. It's a privilege to lead this sector. We're joined today by the Minister for Health, who's going to say a few words shortly, Nat Cook and Oren and Jill Clemick from the OTA board. This will be followed by Shelly Brown, who will give us a donor family reflection about Colin, her husband, who was an organ donor in 2019. We will then hear from Frankie Gibson. Frankie received a kidney and pancreas transplant in 2019, and she'll talk to us about the impact that has had on her life. Shelley will then plant the rose with the Minister in memory of all 2019 South Australian donors. We'll then close the ceremony, have some photographs, and then there'll be a barbecue afterwards. And you're welcome to all mingle, chat with the staff and chat with each other, and sign our, behind me there's you can write your memories on our rose, which we've been doing for the last couple of years. So now I'd just like to welcome the Minister for Health, Mr. Stephen Wade, who will give us a few opening remarks. Thank you, Stephen.
Thanks, Stuart. Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here at the Gift of Life Garden for this important occasion. I acknowledge that the land we meet on today is the traditional lands of the Kaurna people and pay my respects to their elders, past, present and future. I'd like to thank Isaac for his generous welcome to country. I'd also like to acknowledge Nat Cook MP, the member for Hurdle Vale and a donor mother, the Honourable Nicola Santafanti, Oren and Jill Clemick. Oren's a board member of the Organ and Tissue Authority and a donor father. Bronwyn Masters, the Executive Director of Operations, Central Adelaide Local Health Network, Dr. Stuart Moody, the State Medical Director, Donate Life SA, Shelly Brown, the donor family speaker, Francesca Gibson, the kidney and pancreas transplant recipient. But importantly, members of donor families, transplant recipients, ladies and gentlemen. We're here today to remember those whose generosity has given so much to so many. The generous organ and tissue donors who have saved and transformed the lives of others. We are also here to express our gratitude to donor families for honouring the wishes of the loved ones they have lost, and who through their compassion and support have dramatically improved the lives of their fellow Australians. This year's ceremony is also being filmed for those who are unable to attend in person. So to those of you who are watching from home, I would like to acknowledge your support and commitment in joining us in celebrating the enormous benefits that flow from the gift of organ and tissue donation. South Australia's strong and sustained public support for organ and tissue donation reflects an altruism that shines through year after year. At 73%, South Australia has the highest consent rate in Australia, well above the national average of 64%. Through this generosity, in the last year, 52 South Australians have saved the lives of 122 people on the organ recipient waitlist, giving them the ultimate gift of life. In Australia, before the donation takes place, the family is asked to confirm that their loved one wanted to be a donor. Families who are often dealing with very sudden and tragic situations somehow find the strength to respond with generosity and compassion, to say yes on behalf of the person they have lost, to enable the most incredible gift at the most difficult of times. We are extremely grateful to all donor families for honouring the donation decision of someone they loved. I also want to acknowledge the dedication and innovation of our donation, nursing and medical specialists and transplant teams. The life-changing benefits of organ and tissue donation would not be possible without you. This COVID-19 year has added yet another level of complexity to the work that you do. Notwithstanding the challenge, you have found a way forward, achieved important milestones and broken new ground. In June, a team of the Royal Adelaide Hospital successfully performed Australia's first simultaneous kidney and pancreas transplant for a patient with type 2 diabetes. Then in September, a 47-year-old man named Daniel became the 300,000th person to receive a kidney transplant in this state. Such extraordinary achievements in such a challenging time for the world, for which we are all grateful. So in conclusion, on behalf of the government and the people of South Australia, I reiterate our deepest thanks to the donors and their families who have saved and transformed the lives of Australians needing a transplant through their generous acts of organ donation at a time of grief. I also extend our sympathies for your loss. I'd now like to invite Shelly Brown to join me in planting a rose in honour of the 2019 donors. The rose selected this year is called Dearest.
Thank you very much, Minister. Kind words. I'd just like to introduce Shelly Brown. Shelly is a donor partner from 2019 whose husband Colin sadly died, but also helped others after his death. Shelly, I'd like to welcome you to the stage.
Good morning. It's really an honour to be here today and to be asked to share our story. As I pondered what to talk about, what words to find, many thoughts came into my mind, and funny enough, there's always funny ones. The one that came through the strongest was my husband and I would always joke about we must have been crazy to get married. And that's because I just turned 20, he was a couple of years older, and we had just met, but within 3 months he had won my heart, swept me off my feet, and we were walking down the aisle. Because of that crazy decision, we got to spend 20 beautiful years together, smiling, creating memories. He always wanted to have a family young, so that he could spend lots of time, energy playing with them. You know, he didn't want to be old. He wanted to get out there. He was a big kid himself. That was the truth of it. But he was an amazing father and husband. When I think back to the time that he spent with our kids, I think about the oldest one. They were always planning the future. We were going to get a farm, going to live off grid. They were going to build me a tiny house that no one wanted to join me in, but they were going to build me a tiny house ecosystem, and they had all these plans creating. It's been a bit hard for the oldest one. For our next child, she was the apple of his eye. Really, we got the spoiled our daughter, treated her like a queen. With our youngest son, he looks very much like his dad. Same mannerisms, same sense of humour. And one of my favourite memories of those two is my husband. He's nearly next to the side of the bed on his laptop doing something, and our son's just lying on his back. He's not a small boy, but he's lying on his dad's back and his feet are resting on his waist, and they're just hanging out there. He was close with our kids. Family was everything to him. My husband, he was a natural protector, not just at home but also at work. He had this way of bringing people together with a calming reassurance presence. As I reflect over this past year, I think about, how far we've come as a family, mentally, emotionally, because it is a roller coaster. So I recall my time at ICU. I sometimes compare it to Alice in Wonderland as she fell down that rabbit hole. and found yourself in a place that was just so unfamiliar. That's how I felt. She was trying to search for something to change the state in which she was in. And so were we. I could see what the doctors were showing me. I could hear what they were telling me. And I knew it wasn't good, but always that but. But against all odds, I thought he was going to gain consciousness again. He was young and really strong after all. I even pictured what rehab might look like, and I knew it was going to be long, it was going to be hard, it was going to be challenging, but whatever life threw at us, we always got through it together. We could do it. We would do it. Unfortunately, though, I was dragged back into reality. Our time in ICU wasn't long. Trying to process all these unthinkable questions that kept coming my way and falling on my shoulders. How was I supposed to answer this? Before long, they were telling me to bring the family together. It was time for that talk. And I remember thinking, is it really that time already? Yeah, it was. He was dying. ICU. It's a place of disbelief and calm, turmoil and love, anguish and support. I remember standing in the hallway looking at the staff at ICU, and I was thinking, man, it takes extraordinary people to come here and to support us in our most vulnerable time. It was here I also met Nigel, Ryan and Lauren, the team from Donate Life. And they were one thing that I could make sense of in everything going on. Raising awareness about organ and tissue donation, encouraging the discussion about donation, and offering care and support. These were just a few things. So choosing to be part of the program was easy. My husband and I, we had talked about it in the past. He hadn't got around to doing that yet, always thought he had time. But we had talked about that, so when that discussion came, we already knew the answer to that question. As we prepared to turn his life support off, we were surrounded by family and friends. And we spent the day and afternoon singing songs by his bedside. Singing is another language of expressing love, sorrow and pain. It also lifts your spirit in challenging times and penetrates deep into the heart. As we farewelled him on his journey into surgery, I held my children in my arms, tears rolled down their faces. Our families and friends, they sang a Māori hymn as he journeyed on. And it was during this time I thought about the heart recipient. He popped into my mind. I didn't know if it was a he or she, but they popped into my mind. And I thought about them. I thought about the phone call they were going to get. I thought about the joy that they and their family would feel with this life-saving surgery coming their way. And my heart was filled with so much love for them. A short time after the funeral, a parcel arrived in the mail, and in that parcel from Donate Life was a letter. And that letter gave me a rundown of different people my husband was able to help. I wasn't expecting that letter. I thought it would be a few months away, so it caught me off guard. And so as I read the letter, I just choked up. I was sitting in my car and tears were pouring down my eyes because I was happy. Later that afternoon, when I had composed myself, I shared that letter on my social media just so family and friends could get a bit of an update. And because of that, unexpectedly, people started to message me their stories, sharing their stories about being recipients and how that changed and affected their lives. It also, people would write to me and they started signing up to become donors. And so the ripple effect continued. Thinking about the recipients over the past year has really brought me a lot of peace. It's helped me. On those dark and challenging days, it's really helped me. More recently though, I've been able to start to think past myself. And although the thought of the recipients doing well with positive signs, it must have been scary for them too, and the different procedures that they had to go through. And I wanted to thank each and every one of them. I wanted to thank them for being part of bringing peace and joy back into my life. And in closing, I'd like to share a quote, author's unknown. And it's, organ donation is not a tragedy, but it can be a beautiful light amidst one. Thank you.
Thank you, Shelley. Extraordinary words, and thank you for your family coming today as well. Colin will be very proud. I'd just like now to pause for a minute to remember and reflect on all the donors for 2019. Now I'd like to welcome Francesca Franchi to come up and talk about her experience of receiving a kidney pancreas transplant. Thank you, Franchi.
Good morning, everyone. Ooh, muff. I'd like to start off with a thank you to say how grateful I am to be here today speaking to you all at the 2020 rose planting ceremony as a transplant recipient. My transplant story started around 2015 when I began getting really sick. I was tired all the time, dizzy, and generally unwell for over a year. At the time, I was living back in America and becoming more and more ill. I got to a point where I had to move back to Australia in 2016 to be with my family. I was too sick to work, and after only a few months, I ended up back in the hospital with an infection. I was rushed into surgery to remove an infection that I had in my kidney and needed to have it drained urgently. This is when I found out that between my type 1 diabetes and the bad infection that I was in renal failure. I learned I would eventually need dialysis and at some point a kidney transplant. Kidney failure is silent, and most people don't realize they're in kidney failure until it's too late to do anything, and this is the point I was at. The following year was tough, especially for my family. They had to watch me struggle to get out of bed, walk around the shops, and even eat some days. I was constantly freezing and tired and on a fluid restriction of 1.5 liters over a 24-hour period, which was extremely hard, especially in summer. I managed to work part-time for a couple weeks, and as hard as it was something that made me feel a bit normal for a short period of time. In 2017, I eventually got to the point where it was time to start dialysis. This was a huge step in my transplant journey because I knew it would mean I would feel better and would be closer to the day that one day I would hopefully receive a kidney transplant. I went through my options with the dialysis teams, and I chose to do peritoneal dialysis as this seemed like it would be the best option for me. A few weeks later, I had my surgery to insert the dialysis catheter into my stomach, and once it healed, I started my training. There was a lot to learn, but it all became second nature after a while. After a week of starting dialysis, I was back working part-time, and within 3 months, I was back to work full-time, feeling incredible. This is why I chose to do PD, so that I could work and live the most normal life possible whilst going through renal failure. I'm lucky that my body reacted so well to the peritoneal dialysis that I worked full-time for the following 18 months up until I received my transplant. Early 2019, I received a phone call one morning that felt like I had been waiting a lifetime for. It was the hospital to say that they had a match for a kidney and pancreas for me. My bags had been packed for months, and within a few hours, my mom and I were at the hospital. My sister booked a flight and flew straight over to be with us. Within a few hours, we were at the hospital, and I was on my way to getting my workup for surgery. The next couple of hours went incredibly quick for me, but they must have felt like a lifetime for my mom and sister waiting at the hospital while I was in the operating room. But when I woke up, they were both there, and I was told everything went great. When I eventually came to, I just remember thinking how strange it was knowing that my nightly routine of hooking up to a dialysis machine was a thing of the past. I could now drink as much water as I wanted, eat whatever I wanted, and not have to hook up to a machine every night. My whole world had changed in a matter of hours. The next day or so was a bit of a blur, but my sister flew home and my mom stayed at the hospital with me. About 2 days later, I was taken back into surgery as I did have to have my transplanted pancreas removed due to a clot, but my kidney was doing fantastic. My mom told my sister, and her amazing boss booked her a flight so that she could fly straight over to be with my mom and I once I woke up. Everything went well with the surgery, and the kidney was still doing great. The first week I spent in the ICU as a precaution, as I did have 2 major surgeries within 2 days, but the following week I spent on the ward, and I was able to walk around the hospital with my mom every day. A week after that, I was in local accommodation, coming back to the hospital for blood tests and checkups every day. My new kidney was doing so well, and the surgeons were so happy with my results that I was on my way home back to Adelaide within 3 weeks. I was back to full-time work just 3 months after transplant, feeling better than ever. I thought dialysis and being able to work was living, but after transplant, I got to experience what living life really is again. I have a lot more things I'd like to do, such as traveling, seeing friends and family overseas, attending a friend's wedding, and something as simple as just staying out late on a weeknight, as I used to have to hook up to dialysis every night. The past 18 months or so have flown by, and my transplanted kidney is still doing fantastic. Organ donation has helped me to live my life to its fullest again, enjoying things I couldn't do for a while, and have moments I thought I would never experience. My experience has led to me to realize how important organ donation is. I share my story with you all today to say thank you. Thank you for choosing organ donation. Thank you for making a decision that would change others' lives while you're going through the loss of a loved one. And thank you for being here today to celebrate everything that organ donation is, and to celebrate all of the donors. Organ donation has saved my life and many others. Donors are where it all starts, and one generous decision can change others' lives forever. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Frankie. Now I'd like to invite Minister Wade and Shelly to plant the rose in memory of all 2019 donors. Thank you.